Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday. I hope the weekend is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. And it's a good weekend. It's a winning weekend. Can't complain about that, can you? Arsenal 2-0 victors yesterday at Leicester in the Premier League to move within 4 points of league leaders Liverpool, who, by the time you're watching or listening to this, might even have played their game against Wolves today. So that gap might be made back to 7 again. But fingers crossed, you never know. Wolves might do us a favour. Come on, Matthias Cunha, show us what we're missing later on today. So we're going to talk about that Leicester game a lot more in depth. I did do my video after the game, my sort of immediate post-match reaction, my player ratings. We're going to talk about it a lot more in depth in today's show. Go over the big talking points, look at what Mikel Arteta has had to say. I'll run through my player ratings again. I've got lots of responses from you guys in terms of the result as well. So plenty to get stuck into today. And what turned out to be a really good day for Arsenal. Obviously, clean sheet, 2 goals. Looks comfortable on paper. Wasn't really comfortable. Wasn't the best of performances. Wasn't pretty. Was a bit stodgy. But they got the 3 points. I think that's going to have to be, unfortunately, the story of the next few weeks. Certainly until the international break, or certainly until Martinelli and Saka come back, and Arsenal just have a few more options up front. But they got the job done, and that was the most important thing. You need in these situations where you've got no strikers, your main forwards are all out injured. You need people to stand up. And yesterday, Mikel Merino came off the bench and stood up, got the 2 goals, and Arsenal returned home with the points. It was the Merino show, no doubt about it. You know, we all sat here, we were debating. You guys were debating. You were sending in your comments, I'm sure, with your Arsenal mates on WhatsApps. You're talking all through the week, like, what we're going to do up front. And Merino was a player that we all mentioned as a possibility for these next few weeks, certainly at times, you know, coming off the bench maybe and giving Arsenal another option, more of a physical option, physical presence in the central striker's role. I don't think any of us could really have expected what actually happened yesterday. You know, beyond our wildest dreams, I think that he comes off the bench and scores 2 goals. Really good finishes as well, both of them. The header finish on the half volley for the second goal as well. You know, good movement for both of them when you watch it as well. So, yeah, really, really good for Marino. As I said, you need people to step up in these situations, and he did that for Arsenal yesterday, and deservedly has been taking the plaudits for the last 24 hours or so. It wasn't the greatest of games. Let's be frank. The first half, we should really probably just brush over that and never talk about it again, because it was pretty horrific. It was not a fun 45 minutes to watch for anyone in that stadium. It was flat. The atmosphere, apart from the away fans, who were brilliant, by the way, yesterday, Arsenal away fans. If you're watching this and you went to the game yesterday, you're in that away support, big round of applause to you guys, because you were fantastic. Even in that first half when the football was pretty awful to watch and there was nothing to get excited about and there was no intensity, no tempo, you still just kept going and kept going. And Arteta said before the game in his press conference on Friday that when with the team short at the moment, you know, the fans can play a massive part and they can bring energy to a team that is short, and they can make them go that 1-2% more. And, you know, who knows if that's what happened yesterday in the second half. But the Arsenal away fans, you know, fair play to them. They were absolutely excellent yesterday. And they were the only good things to get excited about in that first half. Nothing really happened in an attacking sense. Trossard had a couple of opportunities, both from sort of lofted pass over the back four from Martin Odegaard that he didn't really connect with. Nwaneri bent one in for Declan Rice. He got his header wrong and put it wide at the other end. Indeed, he had a couple of chances for Leicester. But on the whole, it was a really poor first half. Second half was different. It was better. There was more tempo. Arsenal definitely got on top. They played with a lot more urgency. And although it never felt like it was definite that the goal was coming, and the fact that the goals came late, you know, suggested that, I was getting worried as the clock was ticking down. But I always felt you could just tell the momentum had shifted a little bit for Arsenal. But having said that, the big moment, the crucial moment in the game came when Lewis Skelly produced that wonderful clearance at the back post from Jordan Ayew after Leicester had got in down the left, Partey had given it away, and suddenly Leicester, you know, had that gap to run into down the left-hand side. Ayew took full advantage, put in a great cross that looked like Bobby Dakota-Reid was going to tap in at the back post, and Miles Lewis Skelly, the composure he showed in that situation, because so often you see that lead to an own goal, but the composure he showed to just stay switched on and just knock it around the post. You know, Arteta spoke about it afterwards, and he's right. It was the crucial moment of the game. That goes in. I think there's only about 15, 20 minutes left at that point. You know, Leicester probably go on and win that game, but it didn't. He stayed calm, knocked it around the post, and that sort of gave Arsenal the ability to go down the other end of the pitch and win the game. The 2 goals when they came were fantastic. I thought Nwaneri's ball in for Merino was great, but Merino's movement when you watch it, sort of takes a little step, it goes again, he just loses the defender. It was like a forwards movement. Fair play to him. The header was great. We've seen him do that before. We've seen him do it for Spain, obviously. And it was a really good header, but it was a brilliant ball in from Ranieri, who was obviously Arsenal's best player on the day. He was the best player on the pitch. Fantastic. All afternoon when so many people were sort of underperforming and just not really playing at their top level. You know, Ranieri just ran the show for Arsenal. He's fantastic. He really, really is. Brilliant ball, great header. And then the second goal was quality. Martin Odegaard, who was so much better in the second half. I got home yesterday and I watched the second half in full, which I like to try and do after games if my wife allows it. And fortunately, she was putting the kids to bed, and that allowed me to be able to watch the second half in full. I didn't want to watch the first half because it was so bad. And Martin Odegaard in that second half, he was very, very good. The difference in him from the first half to the second half was massive, I thought. And I didn't really notice it as much. I could tell, you could see in real time when you're watching it again, that he was more involved and he was driving forward, and a couple of Arsenal's moves sort of led from him. But when I watched it back, sort of not in the press box and actually at home and focusing on it, you could see that Odegaard, the difference was massive. And I think he was such a crucial part of Arsenal's improved performance in the second half. And the play he does to sort of start that move off for the second goal was fantastic. And then he found Calafiori. Calafiori played that absolutely perfectly. He waited for Trossard to get back on side. And then Trossard, who was so much better as soon as he shifted out to the left-hand side, produced one of those left-footed crosses. We've seen him do a lot recently. Did it against Villa. He's done it. He's set up a few goals like that. It was a great cross because I was right in line with it in the press box. And you could see Calafiori at the back stick, unmarked. But it was a difficult cross to produce, to sort of bend it around the defenders and get to him. And he did it absolutely perfectly. And it was a fantastic finish from Calafiori. It really, really was. And that was absolutely game, set, and match. And when you look at the match stats, Arsenal deserved to win this game. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They weren't great. Leicester were poor. This is a bad Leicester team. This is a Leicester team who, without a shadow of a doubt, are getting relegated. I'd be stunned if they don't. And they offered very, very little yesterday, Leicester. And Arsenal weren't great, especially in that first half, but they did deserve to win the game. In the second half, they were undoubtedly the better team. You could see that. And hit the bar, hit the post, and then eventually they got their goals and got the win. And it was just one of those games at the end of the season. If Arsenal go on and win this title, which again, I'm not getting ahead of myself because of one win. I still think it's very unrealistic to think Arsenal are going to win the title with the injuries that they've got and the gap that they have to make up. But if they did go on and win the title, these are the sort of games you look back on and think that's a key reason. 0-0 game drifting towards 90 minutes, not at your best, but you find a way to win. Someone comes off the bench and rescues the game for you. It's a game. It's a sort of matches you need to get through to win a title. And you could see what it meant to the players at the end. They were really loving it. They went over to the away fans. There was really good sort of celebrations there. Merino got his flowers. The players pushed him in front of the away fans. You had that song, which I was singing the whole way home last night, still stuck in my head this morning. And you could just see what it meant to them because they know they're short. They know they're struggling. And you could tell they were very, very happy to get out of there with all 3 points. Mikel, speaking afterwards, said very tough match. First half, especially the first 20, 25 minutes, we struggled to get certain momentum because we did a lot of simple things wrong, giving a lot of balls away, and they were really threatening and generating enough momentum in the sequences in the opposition box. But in the second half, it was very different. We had more urgency, better intentions, better executions, and you can sense that the game was going in the direction that it had to go. Saying that, there's a moment where we give the ball away in the middle of the park, the space is opening on the counter, and Miles had to produce that magic touch to prevent the goal at the other end. And that's when we're scoring with the subs. They were brilliant. Mikel obviously made a huge impact to score the goals. He's absolutely right to sort of single out that moment with Miles Lewis-Skelly because, that was the crucial moment in the game. That goes in, Arsenal don't win it. But he stayed calm, composed, knocked it behind for a corner, and then Arsenal go up the pitch soon after and go on and win the game. So fair play to Miles Lewis-Skelly. On Merino being the answer up front, Mikel said, we're going to have to share it. We know that. We're going to have various contexts. Sometimes we're going to have to make a sub because a player isn't performing or because the opposition is doing something else or because someone's on a yellow card or it's fatigue that's going to restrict what we really do in terms of the personnel. We have prepared for different scenarios and those have to work. Hopefully they will work as good as Mikel worked today. That'd be nice if it worked as good as that every single time. On Merino's goal threat, he said, I didn't think... he was asked if it sort of reminded him of Marion Fellaini, who, of course, Arteta used to play with at Everton and was a midfielder turned forward who scored plenty of goals, especially in the air. And he was asked if Merino reminded him of Fellaini. He said, I didn't think that, to be fair, but Mikel has got it. He's got goal threat because he can smell the danger. He can anticipate the action. He's really good timing to arrive in certain areas. And then he obviously has the capacity to execute with that part of his body. He needed the delivery, certainly. Certainly had that as well. And he put it in the back of the net. I think what really impressed me with Merino, the finishes were great, but it was just a movement for both of them. It was the sort of movement of a striker. I'm not carried away. I don't think he's, the long-term answer. He's not suddenly going to become Arsenal's number 9. But I was impressed. It was certainly that, he read the game very, very well in those situations. And that does bode well for the next few weeks when he's probably going to have to, be required to play in that position again. And that does bode well for it, I have to say. On Merino, though, on the striker thing, one of my big fears is that I don't know how sustainable this is. He did it from the bench, and obviously, we've got a week now until the West Ham game. Raheem Sterling had a really tough day yesterday. Really tough day. It just didn't work for him. He just looked a bit broken, I thought, Raheem. As in, there's zero confidence there. You can see that, especially in that second half when he was right in front of me. You see when he had the ball and he had the fullback one-on-one. There was absolutely no confidence in his play to try and beat that fullback. He didn't know what to do. You could see there was no tricks. There was no step overs. There was no drop of the shoulders. He just kind of ran into him every single time. And the defender just stood up, waited and knocked the ball away and knocked off for a throw in or anything like that. And it was just, Raheem Sterling has been a top quality player for a long, long time. He knows how to beat his fullback. He knows he has to do something to beat a fullback. In fact, he wasn't even trying it yesterday. It was just a player who, in my mind, his head is all over the place when he's got the ball at his feet. And it's definitely a confidence thing. Maybe it's an age thing as well. Or maybe football has now really caught up with him. And he doesn't have that turn of pace that he used to have. No doubt about that. But I do think that his brain is going in overdrive at the moment because he's just overthinking, because he's not got any confidence. And so Mikel's got a big decision to make this week in terms of what you do up front. Can you play Sterling after that performance? Can he start again? Look, Arsenal are going to need Raheem Sterling over the next few weeks. Undoubtedly so. They've got no attackers. So you need to use the attackers you've got. And one of the few Arsenal have is Raheem Sterling. So Arsenal need to get him firing. They need to find a way to get some of that confidence back, because he's going to need to contribute, even if it's just for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If it's one goal, one assist, he's going to need to contribute. And Arsenal need him to do that. So you can't wash your hands of him, say, we never want to see him play again. That's just it's not going to happen. Arsenal need him. And I do wonder, as good as Merino was yesterday, would he be like that if he started the game? Was the fact he came off the bench with 20 minutes to go when they were tiring, was that a really key thing for him? Because he's not a forward. He admitted yesterday he's not even trained as a centre forward. He didn't know until the morning that he was even going to play there. So can you start him in a Premier League game as number 9? And will he have the same sort of impact that he can have off the bench? Or is it better to keep using him as an impact sub player? I don't know. That's what Mikel's going to have to decide. They're going to work on that, I imagine, all week this week in training ahead of that West Ham game. It's a really tough decision. Can you start Sterling again? Do you go with the same front three? Hope that Sterling can perform better. And then you've got Merino to come on in the second half again to be that sort of impact player as a central striker. Or do you start him and have Sterling on the bench? It's an interesting one. It's a big decision. I would say he probably starts Merino. I think it's just very hard not to start him. And I think it's also very hard to start Sterling after that performance. And maybe it'll be better for Sterling to come on as a substitute in the second half rather than starting games at the moment. Because fitness-wise, I don't think I think he looked really tired by the end of the first half as well. So does he have the fitness to play from the start in the Premier League now? Who knows? So it's a big decision. It's not a decision we have to make, obviously. That's why Mikel makes the big bucks. It'll be interesting to see what he has to do. Well, we're talking about Sterling struggling for form and confidence. One player who's not doing that is Ethan Nwaneri, man of the match yesterday. You can see him there if you're watching on YouTube with his award. Fantastic performance from him. Set up the goal, obviously. So unlucky not to score before that when he hit the bar and he hit the post. Mikel talking about it, saying what he's showing, basically, that is him. Obviously, his age is something that puts a question mark on how we have to deal with him. But every time that he's given us, he's always let me go, let me go, let me go. When a player is giving you all those signs, you shouldn't stop it. You have to play with that freedom, that creativity, that confidence that he's playing with at the minute, and the players around him believing in him. So let him go, because he's a massive threat, a massive talent, and he deserves to play on his defining contributions. He said, I think there were a few in the first half as well. Every time he was on the ball, he made things happen. You could see that he had another level of threat than the rest of the team. And he continued with that in the second half with 2 great actions. After that, he puts the ball on a plate for Mikel to score the header. He's just such a fantastic talent. It's a joy to watch Ethan Nwaneri. It really, really is. He was so good yesterday. He was just on another level to everyone else on that pitch, attacking wise, for Arsenal, especially in that first half when everyone else was really struggling and Arsenal was stodgy. They weren't moving the ball with any tempo. Whenever they did move it, they got themselves caught offside. So the game was just, it was stop, start, stop, start. But whenever the ball went to him, he did look like making something happen. He's just such a talented player. He really, really is. And deserving of his man of the match award, have to say. And yeah, interesting to see what Arsenal do with him over the next few weeks. How many games does he start? Does he start every single game? Mikel's saying, he points out his age again yesterday in that quote that I've just given you. You have to tread carefully with him. We saw over Christmas when he started 2 games in a row, he picked up a muscle injury. Arsenal cannot afford for that to happen again now. So you've got to tread carefully with him. But wow, what a talent Arsenal have on their hands in him and Miles Lewis-Skelly, of course. Okay, so these are my player ratings. I only made one change from the immediate one I did after the game yesterday, and that I bumped Odegaard up to 7 for that second half performance because he was absolutely influential in it. Didn't think he was great in the first half, but he was much, much better in the second half. Even in the first half, he produced a couple of passes that Trossard should have done better with. Does need to shoot more though, Martin. Go back to 2 years ago when you were shooting from outside the area and you were scoring all those goals. You had opportunities yesterday. Didn't pull the trigger. Got to shoot more, take more responsibility in those positions. So yeah, Raya gave a 6. I gave the 4 defenders all 7s. Comfortable afternoon work for them defensively. Certainly the centre backs, they comfortably dealt with. Jamie Vardy, Timber and Lewis-Skelly had some very good moments. Timber put in one wonderful cross for Merino when it was at 0-0, which just evaded Merino. Lewis-Skelly obviously talking about that big defensive contribution he had. Would like to see Timber get on the overlap a little bit more at times. It's the one thing when I was watching him yesterday, but it was still a really strong performance from Timber. Gave Partey a 5. Just didn't think Partey had his best game at all. Thought he struggled, especially in the first half. He just looked off the pace for me, sluggish. Second half, he did improve a bit. Did obviously gave the ball away for that breakaway chance that Leicester had, but he even took to social media after the game to admit he wasn't at his best yesterday. And I can't remember what the post was. It was something like, even when I have a bad day, the rest of the team stand up, and we got the win. So yeah, it was just I don't know if Partey said, because it was 10 days. We know that sometimes when he has a bit of a break, he takes a while to get up to speed. Partey, and maybe that was it after the Dubai break, and hopefully against West Ham he'll be back to his former self. But yeah, I didn't think he had the best of days yesterday, so I gave him a 5. Odegaard and Rice I gave a 7. Nwaneri gave an 8. My man of the match, Trossard. It's a bit. What's the word I'm looking for? I may be over egging Trossard a little bit. Probably 7 is a little bit too kind, but he did produce a really wonderful assist for the second goal. He should probably be a 6, to be fair, because I didn't think he had a very good game yesterday, Trossard, but it was a wonderful assist. And he was much better as soon as he went out to the left-hand side for that final 20 minutes. He was so much better, so much more comfortable. So I gave him a 7. I gave Sterling a 3. Look, and I don't want to hammer Raheem Sterling because Arsenal need him, and we need to support him because he's going through a tough time. He's struggling for form, struggling for confidence. And at the moment, he's kind of looking like he's struggling for ability, but we know he's got ability. And it's down to Arsenal to try and find a way to get him in a position where he can contribute. So I don't want to absolutely hammer him for it. But it was a tough day. It was a tough watch. He'll know that as well. And yeah, hopefully he can come back stronger because, as I said, he's going to be important over the next few weeks. So he needs to find some form. But yesterday was not his day at all. So I gave him a 3. The subs came on. Obviously, Merino, the star of the show, but I thought Jorginho and Calafiori subs were good at the right time because I thought Partey was tiring. You could see that when he gave the ball away. He just didn't have the legs to get back to Jordan Ayew and put any pressure on him in that situation. I thought he was tiring. I thought Lewis-Skelly was tiring as well. So the introduction of Calafiori and Jorginho, I thought was really good and positive, and it improved Arsenal. Calafiori had the role in the second goal, and Merino obviously was the headline grabber with those 2 late goals. So those are my player ratings from yesterday. I'll rattle through what some of you guys have had to say. Devan says it was a flat performance, but a win is a win. Considering the injuries, red cards, lack of signings, we need to appreciate the team's efforts a lot more. We need to support Sterling to get back in some form. It's not been easy for him. I just love Arteta's mentality. His interviews make me feel so proud and blessed to have him as a coach. We keep fighting till the end. Come on, you Gunners. So that's what Devan had to say. Now here's one from Aaron. Says the win was not the prettiest nor ideal, but we definitely needed it. Personally, I'm going to put my reservation on Merino up front. as number 9 until the Forest game is done. No disrespect to Leicester, but they were probably the most must-win side in our remaining fixtures. Sterling seemingly unable to start the next game with that dreadful performance. Merino will definitely start up front against West Ham and Nottingham. Against Nottingham, we'll be facing Milikenovic, Murillo, one of the most powerful centre-backs duos this season. If Merino can create chances or goals against them, that means he can definitely be one of our lethal attacking options for the remainder of the season. Obviously, look, we can't get carried away with what Merino did yesterday. And whether it's sustainable, we just don't know. I have my doubts, but we'll have to wait and see. And Jim says, I know he scored, but Merino at 9 is unsustainable. I want to see Nwaneri there. Well, what Mikel believes that he could play there. So we'll see if that is something that he does use. Toby says, we need Odegaard to shoot more. Too many times he's on the edge of the box and just dinking diagonals, trying to find a pass in a congested area against a drop defence. Just wind up and have an effort on goal. He's too gifted to be showing such reticence to shoot. We need him to take more goal scoring responsibility. I agree 100% with that. And he definitely, yesterday, he could have easily had 3 or 4 shots yesterday, which he decided not to take. And a year ago, 2 years ago, he definitely would have taken those shots on. And that's why he scored so many goals from those positions. Yevon says, hi, Charles. What do you do with Nwaneri once Saka is back? For me, it's not Saka or Nwaneri. It's Saka and Nwaneri. I'd be really tempted to play Nwaneri in the 10 role and Odegaard in the 8. The left foot Nwaneri is so sweet. I'd play Odegaard on the 8 because he's not a goal scorer. He's more of a playmaker. Have Saka and Nwaneri switching position along the right wing. Brighter days ahead. I wouldn't play him on the left. Will be underutilising his strength of cutting inside. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. It's a nice position to be in when Saka does come back. What you do with Nwaneri, is he making himself undroppable? His performances at the moment, you would say yes. But then how do you fit everyone in that team? It's a nice position to be in. How we'd love to be in that position right now. Garhan says, great to have Arsenal win today. With regards to Merino, we've seen him become an aerial threat earlier in the season, but what excites me is his natural game awareness that allows him to be in the great positions to finish. Yeah, I agree. I thought his movement was very good yesterday. West Ham would be a tougher opponent, but if he starts up front, it'll be great to see how he performs then. Suda Tank says, Timber was superb. I know he didn't do anything groundbreaking, but he won every single duel and he drove at Leicester defence, carrying the ball so many times. He really showed class and personality. He's an absolute beast at defending one-on-one. For a guy who isn't that tall, I don't recall him losing a single header. A few more before we wrap this one up. Goss says the first half didn't cost us, so ended up being extremely useful. We learned so much for it as the negatives were as clear as the positives. Marino's timing of the run, particularly for the second goal, was superb, and his finish is excellent. Brings some similar qualities to Havertz, but one difference might be he's actually a calmer finisher. The team now has a week of training with Merino as number 9. Yeah, it was interesting yesterday that after the game, Merino said they did not train at all with him as the 9. He'd never done it. It was just told in the morning, we might use you there. And that was it. So they didn't work on it. They didn't train on it. Will that change this week? Especially if he's sort of forced his way into the starting 11, you would suggest it has to. So yeah, interesting what a week of training will do with him in that position. Max says we have to switch to 3-4-1-2 for at least a few games until Saka and Martinelli are back. We can come in for Nwaneri and Odegaard in a 4-3-3. Who can come in for Nwaneri and Odegaard in a 4-3-3 setup? To stay with a 4-3-3 is to ask Nwaneri and Odegaard to play 90 minutes every game in March. Playing with wing-backs allows Odegaard and Nwaneri to rotate with each other at the 10 and give both players some important rest. West Ham at home is a perfect game to try something new for the first 60 minutes. And finally, Deride says, hi, Charles. Good analysis in general, but Partey was awesome in the game. I think he was better than Declan, as a matter of fact. His defending was solid. He had his usual crisp passing and deft touches that helped us get through Leicester's high press sometimes, or even when the team was trying to find a way through Leicester's low block. He lost possession probably once or twice, but all in all, we had a very good game. Yeah, I don't agree with that, but everyone's got their own opinion. As I said, Partey himself even admitted he had a bad day on social media, but there was definitely a couple of nice touches that helped break the line, no doubt about it. I don't think he was awful by any means. I just don't think he was at the standard that he's set in the last few weeks. But thank you very much for all your opinions, all your comments. Really do appreciate them as usual. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Sit back, watch and see if Wolves, fingers crossed, can do Arsenal a favour at Anfield. I highly doubt it, but who knows? You never know. It's football. Anything can happen. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again as we start to head towards next weekend and that big game against West Ham. Speak to you soon, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.